Yeah, it's working. I hear you. They're just loud.
Good evening, Rural Urban Exchange. Where is Bernard with a bell when you need him? Is this happening? It doesn't really feel like
It doesn't sound like it's on.
I definitely hear you out of the speaker, so something's happening. It's just probably not on.
comms, help. They did this on purpose.
Something's coming out of the speaker. It's probably just not loud enough.
Okay.
Yeah, there's something is coming out of the speaker. Okay, got it.
Hello, hello, hello.
Feels better.
It's getting better. Okay. Can y'all hear me in the back? Taryn, how's it sound?
Ish.
Great. A little more?
Is there a volume or a gain?
That's okay with me. As long as you're all live people.
Everybody speak up so we don't have to turn the fan off.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do my best. Good afternoon, Kentuckians. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are so happy to be here at the Owensboro Museum of Science and History. Can we have a hand for Kathy and her amazing staff? How about that supper? I want to thank Lauren for helping to organize that meal. I want to thank the Marilyn and William Young Foundation. And Allison, thank you for everything you did to organize the meal. And the Owensboro Health and the Marilyn and William Young Foundation for sponsoring the reception tonight. Now, before we get started tonight, I also want to thank several elected officials who've joined us tonight. So we have County Commissioner Chris Caslin and his wife, Stacy, is that right? Who was a high school teacher for 26 years, y'all, and just retired. 27, the last one especially counts. We also have two city commissioners here with us tonight, and those are Bob Glenn and Pam Smith-Wright. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, now, I have a really, there's a treat for me tonight. I get to introduce someone that I really admire. Before I do, I want to say, Owensboro is a really special place. It was one of the sort of micropolitan communities when I grew up. This is where I came to the movies, I went to the mall, here, Bowling Green, Equidistance. This is where people came to buy beer. It was a very exciting place. There are also several folks in the room that I've been very lucky to work with for going on a decade now. We've hosted food, art, and health events across Kentucky together. And I've really, through the process, come to truly admire the amazing arts and culture community of Owensboro and this incredible ecosystem of support. People here really support artists and culture bearers. They support quality of life in their community. They understand the ways that arts and culture and quality of life connect to everything else. And I think that particularly the way that there's a history of corporate investment in quality of life is sort of unique to this part of the state and really something that all of us coming from different communities should be aware of and should be able to point to folks who are in our own communities who could maybe invest their dollars differently in quality of life in our communities too. So I'm really honored to get to introduce someone who can tell you a little bit about that history here in Owensboro and about the impacts of those investments. So before we turn things over to our friend Chad, I'm going to introduce my friend Debbie Zuerner. Hold please. I'm going to say a few things about her first. This is not a roast. Debbie is the Director of Community Engagement at Owensboro Health. She is an Owensboro native and a graduate of Apollo High School. How do y'all feel about that? People like that? Also, I mean, as a person who went to school at Grayson County High School, we did not like any team in Owensboro. She is also a graduate of the University of Kentucky. She has her master's degree in organizational leadership from Western Kentucky University. And her passion and I've witnessed this, it is truly a passion, is population health and building vibrant communities, working with all stakeholders to address health needs and disparities, and using a team-based approach to find innovative solutions and collaboratively address those problems and move towards solutions together. At Owensboro Health, she oversees community benefit, community engagement, community health needs assessment, and implements a strategy towards community health investment grant programs, which is such a unique thing for a hospital system to invest so much in a community. She is also an incredible connector. She brings people together. She celebrates the folks that she works with, lifts everybody up. If you're not friends with Debbie on social media, this is your chance to learn about everything happening in the western half of the state. She's just such a bright spot in the world, and we're really lucky to have worked with her for the past decade at Art of the Rural, with the Rural Policy Research Institute, and now with RUX. We probably wouldn't be in Owensboro without Debbie and folks like Joe Barry and Nick Brake. So thank you for getting us here. Thank you for sending us Laura Farmer and Lauren Calhoun as our first Owensboro alums. It's just been an amazing journey to share with you, and I am so honored to hand the mic to you for you to tell people a little bit about how Owensboro is investing in artists.
I may drop one or the other. Can y'all hear me okay? I may just drop it and just talk, but for the sake of everybody in the room, I'll go ahead and use the mic. So thank you, Savannah. That was very kind and very sweet. But you all know Savannah, and I'll tell you who lit the fire for me, and that was Savannah Barrett. We've been really blessed here in Owensboro. As Savannah said, I work for Owensboro Health. I'm a proud team member of this health system. For lots of reasons, but I've got 10 minutes, and where's Taryn? Because oh, yeah. See, I thought you were fanning yourself. She's got those violent, yeah. I can't do anything in 10 minutes, but I'm going to, wow, look at me. Ooh, can I sing a song now? Ooh. Okay. Oh, gosh, I got 9 minutes. Okay. So let me start back a little historical perspective. So when Owensboro Health built a new hospital and we moved into that new facility on June 1st, 2013, we had some folks, long time, just volunteers and board members and people who cared about this community who really put together, believe it or not, an arts policy. So it was... some of it was having to do with what it looked like within the hospital, the colors, the styles, the way we were going to build that new hospital and what we wanted it to look like. But these brilliant people outlined what I just came in and was able to see, and with the support of administration and team members and one of your colleagues here, Steve Johnson, we were able to look at what they envisioned, which was bringing arts within the walls of the hospital. I mean, if you've ever been to Owensboro Health, you'll see the visual art, which is amazing. And there's other art forms as well on display. The beautiful work outside with our glass sculptures and from a local artist who was born and raised here and now in Louisville. But you'll see that, and we wanted to take it further. And that wasn't my idea, and that wasn't Steve's idea. That was the vision of this team that would help build Owensboro Health as you know it today. Within that, we had the opportunity to start bringing things into the walls of the hospital with the ultimate goal of taking it to the bedside and looking at our arts community to help us do that. And so visual art and theater and dance, the list goes on, what we began to look at that they pointed out that they wanted us to bring in the hospital. This was years before the hospital was built. So I reached out to our arts partners, and we began on this journey, and it is a beautiful journey. And you said we have been at this a decade, but it still feels like we're in the toddler stage of this, and I just can't wait to see where it's going to take us. But with Savannah's help, Joe Barry and I went to Art of the Rural in Iowa. I'll never forget that trip because it was game changing. And I'm not going to elaborate on it because it's simply Taryn's going to give me time here in a minute. But we were able to hear from people all over the nation about how they were incorporating arts, not only in a healthcare system. In fact, healthcare system was really underrepresented at most of the things I attended. Artists Thrive in Berea, I was the only healthcare representative there. But I learned from these artisans, I learned what it meant to you all, what it meant to them to be a part of a thread within a beautiful tapestry within a community, and what that meant to them. And then I began looking inward and going, okay, where is this connectivity from the hospital, inside the walls of our clinics, to the outside community? I'll never forget it. It was the last day of March in 2016. We brought together our arts community around a table, and we just said, brainstorm with us. What's that look like? We heard everything from journaling and putting people's story to dance, to bringing in readers' theater, on and on. But we could not have done this without our arts community. And so when that journey occurred, we started small. And I was learning from Savannah, learning from Artists Thrive, learning from the folks in Berea. And I will never forget the trip that I took across to Eastern Kentucky. So shame on me. I had never really dove into that. And I found myself in Heinemann with Doug Nazelrod and understanding what it meant to make dulcimers, and how he put his arm around folks and allowed them to be to serve as an apprentice, to be able to learn a trade when they were coming in out of drug addiction and moving into recovery and had nothing else that they could craft or do. Fast forward so many years, and yeah, this gets emotional, Steve. Now with the Guitar Works that he has led in bringing that to Owensboro, Kentucky. And then I look back at some of the work we did in terms of understanding what it meant to be in a community that's so rich with an agricultural background, and going, wait a minute, where's this intersection, all right, of healthy food and local food choices and your community arts and your healthcare? What does that look like? So with Savannah's help and lead, the Kentucky Arts Council, Art of the Rural, and Owensboro Health brought together people from Eastern Kentucky to Western Kentucky. We made sure we had the financing to do that. People like Sandy Curd in the Highland, the Promise Zone. We brought them here, and much to our surprise, many of the tremendous musicians there and many of the tremendous musicians here had never met. Many of them had not been to Heinemann. Many of them had not stepped foot in the Bluegrass Museum. What happened at that event? And I brought this, I just keep this running, simple Word document of pictures and notes of what has transpired. And I'd love to be able to go through those with you, just the fun of it and the stories behind it. But what happened was transformational. And what we called that day was the intersection of food plus art plus health. What does that do for a community? So I've been working today, as a matter of fact, on our next Food Plus Art Plus Health signature event that we partner with the Owensboro Regional Farmers Market, where we bring all, and I do mean all, of our artist community together for our local arts community, our farmers market, and Owensboro Health. And we're very, very intentional. It's art, food plus art plus health, and you can finish, equals a vibrant, healthy, sustainable community. And so what has transpired over the years within the walls of the hospital and with the support of the hospital are investments out to the arts communities, and we've made millions of dollars in investments to the arts community. What happens the day of that signature event at the farmers market is a recognition of that intersection is so important to each and every one of us, probably for different reasons. But when you put those things together, then what occurred and what transpired is just, it's a snowball effect. It is beautiful. So much so that our own Randy Landham here in Owensboro has started an arts and healing program within the community, where volunteers are now going to nursing homes and to other areas, into the hospital, to be able to share that with them. We now have a banjolele project at Owensboro Health, where as a patient, you can literally check out a banjolele in your room and be able to have a video instruction, thanks to Randy, of how to use that. I could list example of things that have occurred. COVID hit, and my gosh, we all know, I don't know what we would have done without the arts during COVID. and for people not to be able to go into, I got 2 minutes. Okay. For people not to be able to go into the hospital to visit, I can tell you our nurses and healthcare personnel and the volunteers that were able to be in the hospital were taking as many things as possible from our art cart that was created to be able to work with patients and give them something to do and help distract them, etc. I could talk for another hour on this topic, but I think my discussion with you all, and I was remiss to not even say thank you for having me and thank you for letting me be a part of this special night. I have such an affinity for this work and such an affinity for bringing people together across this Commonwealth. We have an amazing state, absolutely amazing, with so many different aspects, and we can learn from each other. And so to see you all here, to be able to do this, to really get down to what are our differences, how are we alike, what makes us so special. I have 1 minute. Taryn, I love you, but okay, I'm going to wrap this up. I want you to leave with this. Wherever you're from, you need to be the ardent advocate for this work. I know this is your first weekend, right? The second weekend, that's right. This is life-changing, and you go through this process to change other lives. And I can promise you it will. Just keep doing what you're doing and being advocate and reaching out, and don't take no for an answer. We got no plenty of times. Don't take no for an answer. It's too important to who we are, not only as individuals, but as Kentuckians and a model for this nation. So I appreciate you allowing me to talk for only 10 minutes, maybe 9.5. And perhaps we'll be able to do this again at some time. But enjoy your weekend. Welcome to Owensboro. For those of you from Owensboro, embrace this work. Because I guarantee, even from being from Owensboro, you will learn so much from your colleagues being in Owensboro, observing from each other, that it too will change how you wake up in the morning on Monday. I promise you. I'm done. Thank you, Taryn. Bye.
Thank you, Debbie. So I'm Chad Benefield. A lot of familiar faces in the room. Do I need to turn that down? Because I'm much louder than she is. I understand that. Right? I think I did turn those up. I'm Chad Benefield. I actually do mornings on a country radio station here in town, 92.5 WBKR. I am so excited to introduce this fantastic panel of friends to you tonight, because they're incredible artists who have their fingerprints in so many ways all over this city. And I can't wait to let you hear from them, what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it. The first person I'm going to introduce you to is this fabulous specimen to my right.
Me?
Yes, you. My morning show co-host, Mary-Katherine Maddox. Give her mad love. So because this particular panel is about art, we thought it would be really cool to create a piece of art as this conversation goes on tonight. So we're going to do a collaborative live lettering eleganza extravaganza. Thank you. Basically based on the conversation. Mary-Katherine, you actually did this a couple of months ago, right?
Right. So Emmy asked me to do this for something that you'll learn about in a minute. She's going to talk about it, the Money to Sleep Junior Jazz and Civil Rights event that we had. And it was like magic. Everyone at the event contributed to this live lettering project. We had questions that were prompts for people so they could come up and tell me what they wanted me to include, like civil rights icons that inspired them, or their dream for Owensboro, what they want Owensboro to look like. There were kids there. There were people from all walks of life, and it was just the coolest thing. We had spoken word artists, and so I just listened and put it together, and you'll learn about him, so you'll understand the whole camera thing. But he's one of our most notable Owensboroans, and very proud that he's from here. So, yeah, anyway.
So we're going to do that tonight, and what's really cool about this, too, is after she's finished, you'll be able to take cell phone photographs of the artwork that's created, because we're going to do that together this evening, and you get a souvenir, a piece of art to take with you when you go back to your hometowns. So this panel of folks. I want you to give a big round of applause to Aaron Kizer, Emmy Woosley, Brendan Stewart, and Jordan Blake Key. So the first thing we're going to do is get to know each one of these people and what they do, what their art form is, how they got started, and why they're doing what they're doing today. And we're going to start with Aaron, even though he did not want to. He said, I don't want to go first. I'm like, but you're in the first seat. You have to go first.
Well, you put me in the first seat?
I did. Let's get a mic check for you and make sure that's loud and proud.
I don't speak very loud.
I know. Can you all hear him? Is Aaron good? Okay, super. So love this guy. And actually, I'll tell you in advance. It's very difficult for you these days to walk around downtown Owensboro and in some of our most significant buildings without seeing something that he has touched, without seeing something that he has created. In so many ways, this man's artwork is defining this city. He's way too humble to tell you that, so Emmy will nod. I will tell you that because it's the truth. And the best way to understand what Aaron does as an artist is to understand how he became an artist, because this is relatively new for you. I mean, you're 15 years in.
Correct. I forgot how old I was.
Yeah, you're 15 years in. So I know this story, and I think for them to get to know you, it's important that they hear this story. Tell them what inspired you truly, how you became the artist that you are.
Okay, so let me see if I can remember. Forgot my own story. Yeah, once upon a time. So I was, I believe, 24 years old, 24, 25 years old. My dad developed lung cancer. He had no health insurance, no life insurance. And I was trying to figure out ways to help him make money to pay the bills and help pay for his medical treatment. And I don't tell this part a lot because it sounds really corny, but I had Googled how to make money quick, and one of them was if you could sell art. So I took the money I did have the next day and went out and bought paintbrushes and paint, and that's how I became a painter. I don't call myself an artist. That's for the people that views my work to determine whether I'm an artist or not, but I definitely am a painter. So that I started painting. I remember the dates kind of, but I started painting in February of that year. My dad passed away April, so he didn't last very long. But by the time he had passed away, we had made enough money to pay for his funeral through painting. Then I decided to quit painting. My wife then has to have chemo, so I began painting again. So my whole existence through painting has been to I try to do as much as I can with my painting to help other people, because I know that struggle and how hard that was to get through. So like that's my main focus in the arts in general.
Yeah, it's really interesting because in so many ways for you, and I know this because we've been friends for a long time, I mean, art has been therapy for you, but your art has been therapy for other people. Aaron, a couple of years ago, did this amazing project. It was, you called it the Black Print Project, right?
Correct.
Okay, now this is going to sound insane, but Aaron took a canvas and painted it black, and he made 500 prints of it, and then in gold like numerals, numbered each one of the prints. And he said he was going to sell all 500 before he shared the story behind the inspiration for the Black Print Project. So I'll let you take it from there, because it didn't take you long to sell 500 pieces of cardboard you painted black.
Yeah. Well, I think the way that I approached it is I figured people would be intrigued enough to buy into the concept, and if we didn't sell enough of them, then the story would never come out. But the way I sold it is that if you bought this black print, I forget, maybe $50 for the print, $50 a piece. If you bought those in 1 year, I would release a video and make the piece priceless. So for $50, I would give you a priceless piece of art. People bought into that concept, and I think it took 6 months to sell all 500, or by the time I got everything together. But when we released the video, the concept was there was a woman here whose son had terminal brain cancer. And we took all the money and gave it to her and let her spend the last few months of his life with him instead of working. So that was a way to create, and it made everybody a part of this piece, whether they wanted to be or not. And I'll say, like, through that journey and like through my painting in general, as far as we know, like in the observable universe, we are the only life that exists on Earth. And so life is the only thing that gives purpose to anything. So we are what gives purpose to the observable universe. And I also believe that our responsibility in the living on this planet is to create and have self-expression. And so that's why I continue to do art to this day. I feel like it's a duty and a responsibility to every human.
I have black print, I think 375 at the top of my staircase in my house. Another thing, so by the way, June 21st is Aaron Kizer Day in the city of Owensboro. Fun fact. It's been a long time since you've done a live show. And one thing I love about what Aaron does, in a small town, it would be very easy to cater to your audience, right? Anytime you're doing any kind of art or any kind of theatrical piece, there is sometimes a tendency to want to sort of dumb things down for the audience. He will not do that. In fact, what I love about Aaron is he always elevates the audience. He always brings in something that maybe the audience isn't familiar with. And so your show coming up next Friday is called Yosef. It's a tribute to Yosef Karsh. Tell folks about Yosef and why you decided to pay tribute to him.
Oh, that's a long story. Where's my card at? Because I'm... Oh, okay. So 0 minutes left? So I named the show Yosef Karsh, which is based after Yosef Karsh, the American-Canadian photographer. He worked in negative space. He worked with the shadow. And that's kind of how I paint as well. But C.G. Jung had a book called The Shadow. So it's kind of based off Alan Watts' interpretation of that. It would take me forever to explain that whole thing. But anyway, the concept of the show is the parts of it, because like you said, I try to learn my demographic and then do exactly opposite of what I think they would want. So I think for the show, I wanted to express that in a metaphorical way of, because the shadow is about the evil that we all hold inside of us that we don't want to recognize and say that we have, and how to put it in its place. So that's the way that I want this show to kind of work out. And I'll do 5 live paintings that night. I'm going to be super tired. But 5 live paintings that night takes about an hour to get through. So anybody that comes that doesn't enjoy it, it's only an hour. So that's what I tell everybody.
But this man paints upside down. The reveals are incredible at the show. It really is impressive. And by the way, I know some of you all will not be able to come see it, but it is being filmed for KET.
Correct.
Which is tremendous. You'll have a chance to see it on Kentucky Educational Television. So that's really cool. And I love what you said about the show. You said, if I can pull off what I'm attempting to pull off, it will be my best show ever.
Yeah, or the worst show if I don't. but I think that's art in general, is the risk of it. And knowing that there is the world that you can't really change, but there is your world that you control. So I create for my world, and then hope people enjoy that.
Well, there's no doubt they do. In fact, I have to brag on Aaron. He actually just flew in from Tampa to be here with us tonight. He has a construction company, too. He's building a house in Tampa. So as soon as this is over tonight, he's driving to Nashville to fly back to Tampa. But he came to be with us. So big round of applause for Aaron Kizer. So this is Emmy Woosley. And I think you're going to love Emmy's story about about art and what she's doing to really celebrate art here in the community. And look, so some historical background for this particular conversation. I went to public school here. I was a pretty good student. Smart kid. I like to learn a lot. We learned about the civil rights movement. I did not know who Monita Sleet Jr. was until Emmy's Leadership Owensboro class decided that Monita Sleet Jr. needs to be celebrated in Owensboro, where Monita Sleet Jr. is from. It's pretty telling how this conversation is going to play out. So I'll let you take it from here. Leadership Owensboro, Monita Sleet Jr. champion.
Yeah.
Who is Monita Sleet Jr.?
So Monita Sleet Jr. is the first African-American man to win a Pulitzer Prize. He is the first African-American to win a Pulitzer Prize in journalism. And he is from Baptisttown, which is about 4 blocks from here. And I knew about Sleet because he is on the Hall of Fame at OHS, where Mary-Katherine and I both went. Maybe somebody else in here too. Yep. And I was in AP Art. I shouldn't have been in AP Art, but it was the first AP Art class at Owensboro High School, and they needed 12 kids, and so I was the 12th to make the class happen. And photography was my medium. We had to pick somebody to do a report on, and I picked Sleet. And so I've known his story since about then. Fast forward to 2021, I'm a member of Leadership Owensboro, and I felt compelled to counter some really terrible Confederate monument that was still in the community. And so I had some conversations with some people in my Leadership Owensboro class about it, notably being Reverend Rondalyn Randolph, who is our NAACP chapter president. She's also like a second mom to me, and was in our Leadership Owensboro class.
You'll meet her tomorrow, by the way.
Oh,
She's on the
good.
panel at noon. Yeah.
Good, great. And I sort of pitched to our Leadership Owensboro class, hey, what if we honored Sleet? And I didn't tell everybody that I had this personal vendetta against this monument that was still standing and had been standing for way too long. But everybody in the class, I think at the time only Rondalyn in that class of 40-ish people knew who Sleet was. And that's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just completely insane. And so everybody was super pumped to do something. And our initial was we wanted a bronze sculpture. I connected with Ed Hamilton and then Amanda Matthews. I don't know if you've ever priced out a bronze sculpture, but they're quite expensive. And so we pivoted because that wasn't something that our class could get done in the amount of time we had. So we commissioned K.O. Lewis, who Chad and I talked, he should be on this panel, but he has other commitments. But K.O. is an educator in our community, and he is a black man who is also a painter. And his medium his subjects tend to be prominent people in the African American community. And so I know K.O. a little bit, and reached out to him, asked him if he would do this project with our class, and we had over 100% participation in our Leadership Owensboro class to get this portrait made. So the portrait was made. We did an unveiling at Monita Sleet Park, which we can talk about that at some point. It's too many things. But and we then had that portrait travel throughout the community, and so it went in all of the elementary schools, all of the high schools. It went to Owensboro Health. It went to most of the businesses in town with literature that explained who Sleet was. And I guess let me dial back. The reason he won the Pulitzer was for taking the iconic photo of Coretta Scott King and her daughter Bernice at Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral. And the really interesting thing about that is Sleet was not originally asked to be in the press corps for the funeral, and Coretta Scott King, Sleet traveled with the King family for years and was very, very close to them, and she was adamant that he be in the press corps or there would be no press. And Sleet, everyone in here has seen multiple images that he has taken. If you Google Rosa Parks, the first picture that comes up is one that he took. And so we did this portrait and it toured, and that it just kept evolving, and we started bringing in other arts partners. And so we had a festival in 2023 that had the largest exhibit of Sleet's photographs that's ever been put together. If anybody lives in Louisville, that exhibit is currently at the Free Public Library sounds like maybe there's another library. I'm confused, but it's at the. Okay, well, it's in Louisville, so go see it. And then we also had a play component where we commissioned an actor to write a play, and then we filmed a documentary about Sleet, and we interviewed some of his colleagues and his family, and it's just been such a rewarding way to help share a really incredible human being's story. And by all accounts, there is not a person that knew Sleet that didn't love him. And I feel like I love him, and I never met him. But these are the kind of stories that we, as people in Owensboro, need to know. But then furthermore, people in Kentucky, we need to know these things. And kind of like Debbie, I love to bring people together. I love working in incredibly collaborative groups. And that's kind of my connection to the arts, and my little dose in the community.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me, again, kind of going back to the fact that, you went to the school where he's on the Wall of Fame, the Hall of Fame. I went to a school where he wasn't even discussed, and
Right.
that school happens to be within 5 miles of where you went to high school. And it's just fascinating to me that in the late 1980s, we're learning about civil rights in high school in this community, and we have this civil rights pioneer, an icon who's from town, and I never heard the man's name. And it took this project from Leadership Owensboro to really bring him into the forefront of conversation in this community. I think, and it's so weird to say, but I mean, that's great that happened, but it's also a shame it took that long, right? So let's talk about the Ebony interview that you did, because this will, again, give some perspective about the city of Owensboro and its history with race, because we still haven't gotten it right, I'll just be honest with you. About 8 years ago, there was a census survey, and Owensboro at the time was, I think, the 29th whitest city in the United States. Yeah, that's the truth. So let's talk about the Ebony interview and the particular question that the journalist had for you.
Yeah. So one, Ebony is housed in Louisville, Kentucky now, which is a good fact and things to know. So we, through some people in Owensboro, we had some connections, and so we were able to get Ebony magazine to do a short feature on the festival and kind of what we had done. And the connection there is the predominance of Sleet's work was for Ebony and Jet magazine through Johnson Publishing. And so I was sort of I was the chair and the festival starter for this. And there were many times where I was trying to pass the mic to someone else and enlist people like Rondalyn to really tell the story. And it just, I still don't really know why I couldn't get this article to go to someone else. But so I'm doing this interview with a woman who I've never met, still have not met, who is a journalist for Ebony magazine. And we go through the story that I basically just told you all and about the class. And she, first off, very early in our conversation, she was like, well, I did Google you. And I was like, okay. I don't know why you're telling me this. And she was like, so I know you're white. And I was like, oh, okay, yep, that's true. Can't change that. And then we talked, and it was a really great conversation. The article, I think, I sent it to Lauren. You all may have had access to it. But she specifically asked me about the public hanging that was in Owensboro many, many years ago. But it was the last public hanging in the United States, and it was an African-American gentleman. And there were she specifically asked me about that, and I basically told her, I said I wasn't going to talk about it. And she also brought up the Confederate monument. And even though that is part of the story from my personal vendetta, that was not the story at large. And the story that everybody that we in the Sleet team and those like Mary-Katherine who have been brought in kind of as we've moved on, our goal is to only talk about positive things. And if we can't counter the bad and I can't make the bad go away, I'm just going to really shout the good as loud as I possibly can. And I left that interview feeling unbelievably nervous about what this article was going to say. I had several people that I was like, please watch for this, help me, because I want to read it before it comes out. And I was very happy that she didn't include, and I did tell her I wasn't going to talk about it, but I was afraid it was going to be like, and Emmy Woosley chose not to comment on, but I think too, when you're doing art, you have, and anything like this, you have to know where your boundaries are with what you're willing to talk about and what your narrative is, but you just have to do it for the right reasons. And it's hard and it's uncomfortable, but that's why we do what we do.
And there's no doubt, and with the portrait going into schools now, I mean, the great thing is, like, this young generation going to county schools, they're learning who this person is now, finally. And what a joy that man and that work came from 4 blocks away from here. It's tremendous. And so thanks for your hard work, because I know it's been a lot. But it's great that you've taken that up and shared his story with everybody, because it needs to be heard.
Thank you.
For sure. So Debbie mentioned dance, and we brought a dancer. His name is Brendan Stewart. And I'm going to let you, Brendan, tell them.
Dance for us now.
Dance.
Yeah, right now. Drop it like it's hot. Come on. So I'll let you share with them the other name that you're widely known as.
So I typically go by Brendan Stewart. But my dance name is Wicked Curls. If y'all don't see why, I cut a lot of it off. I wanted to try to change it a little bit. I wanted to come off a little more professional. I didn't want the long hair as much. Dance is a big thing for me. It's very strong. It's lived in my heart since I was a child. I've always danced with my mom, and she's the one that always picked me up and was like, all right, here we gonna do it. So, Wicked Curls, I was like, it sticks with me because I got curls, so we'll just go at that.
So lots of folks like to dance, and you said you got this from your mom, and she had a passion for dance too. But at what age did you know that you could really dance? Because, okay, I've seen him, I've actually worked with him. This boy can dance. So when did you learn that you could do it?
So every day I wake up and I'm still like, what? How does Michael Jackson do this? How does Chris Brown, like all these artists do it? But it's when I was really young, I had first did my Fine Arts Festival event, and it was for 2nd grade, and I had dance battled my principal. And what it was, we did a High School Musical theme, and he was coming to steal my girl. And I was like, oh, no. So we had to do the little wave with our arms. And ever since that day, I was like, I got to try this out and see where I can go. And I had a lot of opportunities within school with OHS, great teachers, great supporters that helped me from where I'm at now. That's how I know how to do so many different styles, and it's always a gift, and I'm so grateful for learning. And there's a lot of people out here that say, I can't dance, and I'm like, you're lying to me. I know we can get something out of you, either a leg move, a right hand move, something. But it's always fun, and once I was young to where I'm at now and changing so many people's lives and inspiring them to get up and dance. I have people that are in wheelchairs that can't even move. Just to see a smile on that person's face is like amazing to me. It's like, whew, I can go to my next day, my next day, my next day. It's kind of emotional to say, but there's a lot of people out here that say that they can't do, and I always want to be the inspiration to say you can. Chase your dream, fight for it. If you can't, you got somebody behind you that's yay tall that's going to say, keep going. If you can't dance, I'm going to say, keep going. If you can't do a job, keep going. Don't give up on yourself. It's always a gift. Believe in yourself and push every single day. So
let's talk about chasing dreams, because this young man has trained in major cities. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you trained in New York. You went to an academy there, I think in Hell's Kitchen, right? Just off Broadway?
Broadway Dance Center.
Yeah, right. Then I believe you trained in Chicago and Los Angeles.
Yes, sir. So
how did that come about? Who have you trained with?
So I went to Jazz on Tap through Joy Johnson's, and I got a scholarship. And then when I took the scholarship from that event, we went to New York. I got trained there, and then my mother and them gifted me for my birthday a trip to Chicago. And one of the dance artists came off stage and handed me a certificate to go to LA. So everything was a different opportunity. It was scary. I was like, please pick me, please pick me. You know how it is being a kid. You're like, please. But it was so great going out there, meeting all the different artists. I got to meet Twitch. I don't know if y'all have seen him on Ellen. So many different artists and figuring out all different styles. It was always just so fun to be the student. Now I'm growing up and owning the studio, being a teacher. It's a little hard because it's like I was a kid being a student. Now it's switching the roles to being a teacher. But it's always a gift because watching them look at me and they're like, okay, well, you're so good. Like he said, you're so good. But then I look at them, I'm like, okay. And I was with my student. I had a class yesterday. It was one of my adult students. And seeing how far she's came, she looked at me. She's like, am I doing this right? And I said, what do you mean? She came in a hip-hop outfit. She was killing it. She was not holding back. She looked at me. She was like, oh, well, it's not looking good enough. I was like, what's good enough? You've been here for this long, and I've seen how far you've came, how you've grown, how you don't hold back. You're smiling. And she told me the same thing when I was standing there. She was like, this spot right here helps me open up. This spot gives me a chance to be myself. And I'm like, well, that's crazy. Because I'm like, well, this spot, I got to come, turn the lights on, turn the music on. I got to choreograph before you get here. But
he's got a fog machine, too.
Yeah, we got lights, fog machine, mirrors. We got the whole shebang. And candy. We got candy. A lot of people steal my candy. I don't know who. I ain't going to say names. But it's always just very fun, and being able to travel is cool too because you get to meet so many different people. And I'm thankful for all you all coming in today. Just to get to know people is very good to me and at my heart within dance. And if I could change y'all, if y'all want to learn how to dance a little bit, just let me know. I'll take people. Come on, we can go. But yeah.
Yeah, so he actually, and you may not even realize this, but Brendan is actually one of the youngest small business owners in our community with the Vault Studio. He really is.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous up here sometimes. Yeah, but I had to shake it a little bit.
And one of his former dance teachers is a former New York City Rockette. Miss Ashley.
Miss Ashley.
And I remember one time, I think you had gone to New York City. Maybe you were there for training or whatever. And I believe you got into a dance battle in the middle of Times Square.
Oh, we sure did. I
yes.
had to jump straight into it. So basically, when you go down in Times Square, they always have the different guys that would jump and do a front flip over somebody. And then when we were walking, my mom was like, do you hear that? And we heard some music. So we walked down a little bit closer, and all these people's crowded in their dance battle. And I'm like, my mom's like, get out there. You need to get out there. Get out there. Get out there. I'm like, Mom, come on now. You know I'm not from here now. Then I jumped out there, and we got to battling one-on-one, and they were hyping me up. I was hyping them up. It was so crazy. And then at the same time, to bring in Miss Air, she took a picture right in front of, what is it? Where's the Rockettes? I don't really.
Radio City Music Hall?
Okay, y'all know more than I would. But what I did is I grabbed onto a light pole, and I did the pose she did and sent it to her. So that freaked her out. She thought it was funny. But we did that, and then also within that dance battle, it's always different. And what I mean by pushing yourself, throwing yourself out there. My mom was in my ear. Like I said, I could be behind y'all, but my mom was behind my ear telling me, get out there. And I'm so grateful that she did. I want to thank Miss Air, Joy Johnson's. They always helped me push out of my comfort zone. And that's one thing that I do look forward to every single day when I get up, is to push myself out of my comfort zone. Because if you're always safe, you're never going to take the risk. So within taking that risk and jumping into that battle, I don't know what he has to offer. I don't know if this guy can do 7 backflips. I can't flip. But at the same time, I'm going to bring me. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to bring the person I see in the mirror. And when they see their dance style, I'm like, okay, that's them. Okay. And I hype them up just as well. But if you sit there and walk away from it and walk to them and say, hey, I appreciate it for that dance battle, they're like, boy, you killed it. Where'd you learn how to do it? I'm like, man, I was afraid of you. So either way, it's always fun. And dance can always branch out. There's so many different cultures. There's so many different things that you can do with dance. I'm learning yoga and the ballet. A lot of people's like, well, boy does ballet. Yeah, I was doing ballet. Had the opportunity to work with a dance team. That was a whole lot different than what I was expecting. I had collaborated with Davis County at one point, and I had them doing jumping jacks, and I feel like it was drill sergeants, like 1, 2, 3. So like every different amount of people that you have within a space, if it's one person, 20 people, 30 people, having that opportunity to be around them and teach them is always a gift. So I'll go ahead and say that real quick.
You're doing great. And one thing, Brendan recently got to experience a little bit of the movie Footloose. You all familiar with the movie Footloose and some of the pushback that communities have? So we actually wrangled Brendan to be in a lip sync battle number that we did for Puzzle Pieces this past year. Brendan helped choreograph it. You know, you were talking about getting out of your comfort zone. Well, that's what art does, right? Art is supposed to sort of, challenge you, inspire you to think, push boundaries and things like that. And the truth is, art can really impact culture, and sometimes culture can really impact and limit art. So we did this number for Lip Sync Battle that was pretty inspiring. Like, we decided to go full-on VMA. And Brendan was in the number, and he killed it, by the way. It was just crazy. So after we did the number, we started seeing some online chatter that accused us of worshiping the devil, being inappropriate for children. Like, this became a thing. Like, I actually personally got renounced by a division of the Knights of Columbus in a small community. Like, I'm not kidding. Renounced because they thought that our number was so offensive. So Brendan got to experience some of that pushback that was just, by the way, based on complete nonsense. Our number kicked ass. It was amazing. And if you want to see it, I'll sing you the... Cheryl, what do you think? You saw it. And this young man choreographed a big chunk of it. And he worked his behind off. But what was that like for you? Because, typically you get celebrated as a performer, right? And as a coach and a teacher. What was that like for you, getting that kind of pushback from a segment of this community that was like, wait a minute, your art on this day was too much?
We'll start the conversation off very small. But to start off, when he reached out and allowed me to take upon the opportunity to choreograph, it was it's so fun because it was like I had so many different people. They're all looking at me. They were like, we don't dance. I have kids. I'm a mom. I'm a parent. I do this. And I was like, okay, we'll figure this out. So as we learned and we got all the costumes and stuff, it was always a blast and a great opportunity. So with all the backlash and stuff, I didn't really look into that so much because at the time I was on the couch and my girlfriend looks at me and she's like, did you see? And I'm like, see what? She's like, what just happened? And I was like, no. I was like, what, did we get an extra trophy or something? Like, I just got done dancing. Like, what? Did you hit the lottery? Like, so she brought it up and she was telling me, and I know that it was a lot, but honestly, to me, within that story that a lot of things had came down and there was a lot of people bashing and stuff like that, I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it as an opportunity as a dancer. A lot of dancers do different things. There's a lot of people that do things that you probably be like, why are you doing that? But for me, it's just, I'm being me. I'm dancing for me. So if you judge from what had happened, I understand completely. I take fault. Yeah, I apologize for that. But that opportunity was a blast with them. Seeing him getting a costume, seeing her getting a costume, it was fun. We had a great time. So I seen past the darkness and just kept pushing because there's always going to be things that do come in your way and do stumble you and do keep you and hold you back from what you're doing. But as far as the opportunity was seeing it, getting surprised by my girlfriend, she looked at me and I was like, I didn't know. But at the same time, it was cool. Like, okay, I'm sorry. And I would apologize for anybody that had got offended by that because to me, it was dance. I was dancing.
It was dance.
I do my job. You know what I'm saying? I came in to have a good time. So,
and by the way, raised about $250,000 for charity doing it.
Yeah, and the charity. Yeah.
So take that, haters. All right, let's talk to Jordan Blake Key. And actually, this is really the perfect segue into this conversation in so many ways. Look, you all are from different parts of Kentucky, and you know what's happening in terms of art. We'll talk about a couple of different things, particularly drag. Drag is the subject of a lot of pushback, vehement opposition based on nothing. Library books, same thing. And this is happening in communities, not just in Owensboro. It's happening all over the country. I know it's happening in other parts of Kentucky. And so we have that conversation going on here in this community, and it's been very nasty at times. I'm not going to lie about it. It's a lot of falsehood. It's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of name calling, a lot of suggestive selling, accusing people of doing things that they're not doing. And what's so interesting about having Jordan Blake Key here, because he has created Prism Arts Alliance in so many ways as a response to that conversation. So I'll let you take it from there and tell people how this alliance came to be.
Yeah, so I'll start a little bit towards the very beginning. So as an artist myself, so I consider myself a theater artist and a musician primarily. But I didn't have these kind of altruistic origins that you had, Aaron. I certainly wasn't, trying to save my family or the world in any kind of way. It was very personal, for me. And I'll admit, very self-centered. It was just this kind of self-expression that I needed when I kind of started playing piano at 15, which was late for a pianist, and then getting into theater after that. But at the same kind of time that I started as an artist, I also kind of was able to take over Owensboro High School's Gay Straight Alliance at the time. But in doing that, I always had this kind of search for my identity and always was kind of torn apart by who am I? Am I a theater artist? Am I a musician? Am I a singer or a pianist? Am I a writer or am I a gay rights advocate? Like, what are all of those things and all of those hats? And so it's only kind of now that I've been able to solidify all of those things kind of together through Prism Arts Alliance so that I don't have to basically choose. So it's this huge aspect of like kind of culminating my own identity. So that's the personal background of all of that. But then, so we started to have this issue with drag happening at the River Park Center, at the Ghostlight Lounge specifically, and there being some pushback about that because the River Park Center was a publicly funded organization, and so people felt like that they had some say in the operations of the River Park because they were taxpayers, and they didn't agree that drag should exist, period. And so we got some wind that the Davis County Fiscal Court decided to pull their funding from the River Park Center. And so that was kind of creating too much flack for the River Park Center. And through a long series of events, those performances got pulled. And then now the focus has still kind of switched over into the library, but we'll get to that, I guess. But as a response to that, we felt there was a need to make the statement that we are part of the community too. And we are also taxpayers. We are also people who have a voice and should have spaces, and should feel free to express ourselves. And throughout that conversation, it just became so much clearer that instead of fighting for our rights with an organization that may or may not take us and, prioritize us, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that we needed to have our own space, that it should just be a given, that we should have an LGBTQ plus friendly space in which we could express ourselves. And part of that was also realizing that many gay people feel the need, or queer people feel the need, to leave smaller communities. And so I was talking with somebody, and the words that she uses was there's this great exodus of queer talent and queer voices from small communities. And so it takes kind of that courage in order to say, no, we deserve a place in our own homes. So Prism Arts Alliance was kind of born out of that. So we got a little bit of notoriety kind of out of me speaking, and that speech was actually formed by several members of the community. I was just the one to present it and kind of pull it together at the Davis County Fiscal Court. And then we just said, we actually need an organization that is dedicated to do something like this, and we felt like the arts was the way to do that. The arts was that form of kind of expression. So if we're talking about the need to express ourselves more generally, we have the vehicle of the arts in order to do that. So, and sorry, throughout the kind of speech tonight, like I've been taking notes on my phone. I'm not just like texting somebody. And the kind of a couple of things that you've all talked about have kind of, been a part of what this journey for Prism has been for me. So this idea that, Debbie, you're talking about this idea of kind of culture is really what you're talking about with the arts and food and health and all of those things. You're talking about creating and changing a culture for the better. And so that's kind of the same idea and then Emmy, like the thing that you're talking about with Sleet and with Chad, you're saying it's so crazy that this doesn't exist. It's so crazy, but it takes that kind of person to say this needs to happen. it takes those people. I think we can sometimes take that for granted to say like, oh, we should just have these things, especially in smaller communities. You hear there's nothing to do around here. But like, that is something that I think people take for granted, that somebody has to take the time. Somebody has to dedicate their time and sometimes their lives to making something happen, to making a culture exist. So often I feel like that's taken for granted. And so that's what Prism Arts Alliance is kind of created to do in order to kind of dedicate my time but also other people that have gathered to form Prism. It's the ghost. We were talking about the ghosts earlier. So yeah, that was a lot about what that was around, just this idea of dedicating our actual time and space to create a cultural shift, because we realized that that's what really needed to happen. And so that's the kind of origins of Prism.
Well, what's really interesting, this is a relatively young alliance.
1 year from today.
Just shy of 700 members on social media, that's incredible. I think that's a really great start. One thing that I love that you're doing, and look, when you come from small towns, you do have to accept from people who haven't had world experience, right? Because I have a lot of friends in Owensboro that I grew up with who just haven't left. They just haven't left. They haven't had experiences through other parts of the world like I personally have or other people have. And you sort of can't fault them for not getting out of their own backyards, because some people just grow accustomed to staying there. So what I love about what you're doing is, because they're doing something really cool for Pride Month. They're having a series of panels on Saturday nights, right? Saturday nights?
Yeah, Saturday at 5 p.m.
Yeah, so it always pains me when I see people, because let's be honest, I mean, in the last, 12 months, 24 months, the trans community has been the latest punching bag for a lot of people. Well, if you live in Owensboro, the chance that you know somebody who is trans is pretty minimal. That doesn't happen a lot. What I love about what you're doing is you have these panels that are celebration, but also they're education. So talk about those panels that you're hosting and some of the themes that you're tackling.
Yeah, so the first one was actually a presentation that I did on defining LGBTQIA+ and kind of the plethora of identities that come along with the queer community, and actually explaining them more from this kind of gender and sexuality studies. It's not trying to apply any sense of morality from it, but rather saying this is human behavior, this is how we exist, and that flatly that's that. And then the next one that we had was Trans 101. And so it's actually interesting that you say kind of minimal that you know a trans person, but it's actually quite common that you might know a trans person that you don't know is trans. That happens way more often than we may realize. And then, this trans umbrella is also expanding the more that we understand gender identity, that we have kind of non-binary-ism, as it were, kind of being expanded in our understanding of what gender is and how cultural it actually is. Rather than biological. And there's even more arguments about that. That's a whole other conversation. But anyway, so yeah, we were lucky to have Dr. Dennis Bunton, who is trans and also does gender and trans care, explain very deeply kind of what that looks like. But yes, that was last week, and he'll still be speaking in other panels as well. And then tomorrow at 5 p.m., and it's at First Presbyterian Church. I don't know your schedule. I don't know what's happening. But if you happen to be here, at First Presbyterian Church at 5 p.m. tomorrow, it's Queerness and Faith. And so Jeff Moles, who is the kind of community person there at First Presbyterian, he'll be hosting that. And then we have a kind of interfaith panel that are going to talk about what queerness looks like from their perspectives. So we have somebody who is a former Mormon woman who is now identifies as a lesbian. We have a Buddhist drag queen. We have, we have Pastor Craig, who is known for being on We're Here. He was a pastor in Newburgh and has since been fired from his job at that time. And so he'll be speaking. And then we have a good friend of mine named Bandy Tingler, who comes from a Pentecostal tradition and then has now kind of it's a very complicated relationship with that. So anyway, they'll all be speaking. And then we have Parenting a Queer Child, which will happen the following Saturday. That's the 22nd. And then the last is Fostering Queer Creativity, which will happen the 29th.
Love that. It's really neat. And if you all want to like that Facebook page, they've created some really cool graphics for Pride Month. Proud to be lesbian, proud to be gay, bisexual, and ally, trans, queer, pansexual. You can download those. It's been really fun to see those shared.
Yeah, so it's actually, just to be clear, super clear, it says proud to be whatever, queer in Kentucky. Right. And it's a picture of the shape of Kentucky as those different pride flags.
Right. Because y'all means all, right?
Y'all means all.
Real quick before we wrap up, I have one question for each of you because obviously these folks are incredibly talented. We're lucky here in Owensboro because we get to see the benefits of what they do. We get to enjoy them. So my question will start with you, Aaron, because the truth is, and look, I know you've sold paintings all over the place to like huge celebrities and all kinds of things. So truly, your talent could take you anywhere. So why are you here? Why are you in Owensboro? Why is this home for you, and how are we so lucky that we get to?
You asked me to come tonight.
Right. He flew in for it.
Tell me to be here at 5:30.
I told you we'd feed you.
No.
So but why Owensboro?
Number one, it's where I grew up. No matter where I travel, I always think of Owensboro as home. I never get comfortable anywhere else, to be honest with you. And I hate to ever make money an issue, but LA money spends a lot better in Owensboro than it does in LA.
Sure.
So, but no, my family, everybody I've ever known and loved came from here. So this is where I would rather be. And like I said, I just came back from LA last week. Hate the traffic, don't like being around all the people. Owensboro's a great mix of having things to do, but not having to drive 4 hours to get water or coffee. So right. I'm not doing that. So, but no, I just love the city of Owensboro.
Yeah. And Emmy, same question for you. I mean, you just wrapped up graduate school, right?
Yeah, I just finished with my MBA at Vandy.
At Vanderbilt, right? So you spent a lot of time in Nashville and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and you could go anywhere you want to. Why here?
So I ask myself this probably, 3 or 4 times a week. And first and foremost, I love being a Kentuckian. Like, I grew up in Ohio County, in the middle of nowhere on a semi-farm that's named after my parents, and I love bluegrass music. I love bourbon. I love the people here, and that is truly where my heart is. And I have very few Kentuckians that I don't like, and way more that I do, and it's a good place to call home. But I also know that if I'm here, I can influence things and I can help other people and I can make things happen. And if you take me and put me somewhere else, I may not be able to do all of the things that I can do here. And even if it's not huge, it's moving the needle maybe just a smidge. But if everybody leaves small towns, they will suffer. And some of it feels somewhat like an obligation to be one of the people. And Chad, I want you to answer this question too, because you should. And I love the people here, and that's really what it is.
Yeah. And Brendan, New York, you've trained in Chicago, Los Angeles. You truly could be dancing anywhere you wanted. So what inspired you to keep your roots here and open that dance studio in Owensboro?
Within being in Owensboro, the biggest thing to me is kind of touch on what he was saying about being in a bigger city. Driving 30 minutes to a store it takes a lot out of me, but being here is family. I love my family. I love being around all my siblings and my parents. Owensboro's a big place if you make it big. Owensboro's a small place, you make it small.
Let's put that on a shirt.
Board. Mary-Katherine, letter.
I about teared up by saying that. I don't know. That was motivational. What I figured out when I moved to Atlanta I had a lot of big support with my friends, but I always felt like I was missing something. Then I came back to Owensboro, and I can still have my friends, but I was missing my family. So within being in Owensboro, I had my family, and being able to be here, there's so many things to do. Owensboro has came so far with events and the barbecue festival, the porch fest. Our community is so great within welcoming you in, just saying, hey, like, how are you doing? Like, you can just walk up to someone and be like, hi, and they'll be like, I don't know you, but where do I know you from? It's crazy because we're so chill. Owensboro's great to go 5 minutes down the road to Kroger's instead of going 30 minutes away. But I love Owensboro for what it has to offer and the friends and family it has to offer and the great community behind it. So
Love it. And Jordan, we've had this conversation when you and I met. We realized that we share this in common. We are both theater queens.
Yeah.
We love New York City. You spent time there.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, if you love theater, that's the place to be.
Yeah.
So, but you're here.
Yeah.
And so why here?
So yeah, I mean, I had an internship when I was in college, and a reoccurring one where I was working at a theater in New York City, just a small one. And I think it's important to know, like, the premise behind that was working with children and devised theater, which is where you don't really have a script, you just kind of make it as you go. And so what they would do is, we would say, hey, kids, what do you want to change about the world? And like, let's make art about that. And at the time, I really thought they came up with such thought-provoking ideas about, racial inequity and identity and prejudice. And at the time I thought, oh, well, it's because these are New York City kids, right? Like, that's something that they're so consciously aware of. And I think now it's so much more about the changing of the culture to be more socially aware, and I think it's so much about this generation, instead of just the fact that they were from New York City. And a part of that still kind of made me appreciate my hometown more, and then this kind of awakening, this idea of to stay is its own form of activism, right? To stay and make a home here is activism. And to kind of reclaim your own home, and then not only to do that, if I can just stop. Not only to do that, but to do it with free expression through the arts. Yes. Like, that's the way. Like, that's the way to do it.
You all, I hope you enjoyed these friends of mine up here. I love these folks. They are so talented. And I can tell you, being somebody who lives in Owensboro, this place is richer because of them and their talents. Truly. Oh, well. It's so true. I mean, the impact that these, not just 4, but 5, the impact that these 5 people have on this community is really, you can't even account it. It's incredible, and we're so much richer because of you. So thank you for everything that you're doing, and you're clearly going to continue to do because you've chosen to live here. And I hope you have folks in your community who are doing the same thing. And if you do, if you're one of those people, please keep doing it because it does make change. Art inspires. Art changes. Art is a wave, and I'm so thankful that you all are here to hear their stories, and thanks for being with us. And I'll answer the question. So I never wanted to live here. When I graduated high school, I had to get out of here. Everybody looked like me, and I thought it was gross. I'm not kidding. I could not get out of here fast enough because everybody in my circle looked like me. I don't know why. I had people in my family who didn't think that way at all. There were people in my family who loved the fact that everybody looked like us.